Many years ago, I was afraid of what the French would think. Like, they're going to hate this movie. We'll show it everywhere in the world except France. That was what I was thinking. Like, I don't even want to ever show it in France because they won't like it. But then got closer to it, and I realized how obsessed certain crew people, starting with Michel and Laurent, but even our first AD, this guy Hubert, was just, he knew everything, and he's the first AD, so he's very specific. It was like a joint research project for every department. Everybody was all in on it. Raoul Cotard left his archive when he passed away a few years back. And we're like, is that Camaflex? So the camera you see in the movie, shooting the movie, is the camera that shot Breathless. Because it's like, does that still work? Yeah, can we use it? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so it was like that, little magic happening constantly. I just felt like the French film gods were like blessing us every day.
Okay, Rick, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
Obviously. So tell me what sort of significance Breathless held to you as a filmmaker before you set out on this journey.
Well, are you talking about like 40 plus years ago when I first saw
Yeah,
it? Or
yeah.
getting closer to, yeah.
Start there. Start 40 years ago.
I think it was the first Nouvelle Vague. I was in my early 20s. My dad actually took me to see it. He knew I was interested in film. And I had heard about it, but it was the first Nouvelle Vague film. I wish I could say that screening changed my life and everything, but I didn't, I liked it, but I didn't really understand it, I guess. I was like 20. But the next time I saw it, about 3 months later, it started to kick in. And then I saw the other films. And this was the 80s. I was watching all their new films, too. Godard's new films, Truffaut's. So that's what really got me going on the Nouvelle Vague. So, just... they've been inspiring many generations, so it's funny how they don't go away,
Right.
So.
What was it? So at what point did you say, maybe there's a movie to be made here, maybe there's a story to tell?
Well, my colleagues, Vince Palma, Holly Gent, we've been working together in different capacities for 30 plus years. They showed me this script they were working on. And I was like, yeah, I always kind of want to make a film about making a film, but every filmmaker probably thinks that because, there's a lot of drama and you could make a film about anything really. But I was like, yeah, to get in the historical part of it. And it wasn't just that film, it was really the whole atmosphere of that time and place. And I just love the idea of kind of time traveling to 59. In that community, and I immediately saw it too as I took on the Nouvelle Vague. It was always, usually crappy 16mm prints, black and white, and subtitles. So I just, that's the film I saw in my head. We were going to make this like a film made at that time, so which usually doesn't work, in filmmaking. But I thought, if we do it right, maybe it could. So that was the goal, and that was about 13 years ago that we started, and then it was in the last couple of years I met Michel and Laurent, and they were just crazy enough to want to do this film too. So.
Michel, can you tell me about your connection to Godard?
Oh, it's a long story. It goes back to '85. I was editor of Première magazine in France, and I was working only on English-speaking movies. But there was a big press conference with Godard, which was always an event at Cannes, so I went. And people were not asking questions, they were expressing their adoration, which was really annoying. So at one point I asked a question, which was, why did you dedicate your movie to John Cassavetes? And he didn't like the question, so he went, who do you write for? I said, Première. Or since when does Première care about movies? So it was really quite nasty. Everybody was laughing at me. So eventually I said, well, you didn't answer my question. What was the question again? So I rephrased it. And I used the word that's in the movie. I said, well, we know that Cassavetes makes movie out of necessity. What was your necessity making this film? And he stopped. He said, it's a good question. I have no idea. I have to think about it. Okay, the day went. Everybody said to me, you're crazy. Who do you think you are, answering to Godard? It was really bad. And 6 months later, I got a phone call saying, Jean-Luc Godard wants to speak to you. And he said, I'm preparing King Lear, and in this movie there's a part for the the chief editor of the New York Times, a big mouse, I thought of you. That was the beginning. So eventually I did spend the night on that set, which was amazing, with Carax and I don't know. It was an incredible night, really, being on that set. And anyway, and years later I became a distributor with my husband, and we distribute his film called Praise to Love. And then we stayed in touch, and he would always ask us to send him the movies we were releasing. And eventually in 21, I was offered to do a radio program, as I had done many years before. And I asked if he would allow me to come and see him. And I had this 3 hours long interview, which eventually happened to be his last interview. So when Rick came to us, he had no idea of that connection, which was really funny. But I felt the connection in the script because I recognized the Godard that I always knew was there, which was the humor, the shyness, this brain that went so fast, and this provocative way of making sure people loved him, because that was basically the bottom line. And he was there on the page, and that's why we went for it.
Michelle's not saying there's a Godard short before our movie, that the logo to their company, Godard made it for them. He didn't like it.
Yeah, he hated our logo, so eventually he kept saying, can you make it black and white? Can you cut the sound off? Can you make it shorter? Could it play faster? So one stage my husband said, what's wrong with my logo? Oh, it's ugly. So Laurent said, well, make one. And he said, well, if you sign me if you give me a contract to sign, I will fulfill my obligations. And he did.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you see it in his other films from a certain era, 90s, early 2000s. He was filming a lot with he would take a lighter and that would be the light for the image. So you see that image kind of in some of his movies too. So a little.
The logo is better in color though.
Yeah, yeah. I would think so.
So Rick, you have to cast many icons of cinema, but the 3 here. What was sort of your approach to casting?
Wow. Well, Zoey was the first one. I told her, she can tell the story, but it was about a little over 10 years ago. We worked together on Everybody Wants Some, and somewhere in that, you want to jump in? So you can tell, I did look at her, I said, I'm going to do this movie someday about the making of Breathless, and you look like Jean Seberg right here. Her hair's always very different, everything, but right here, you got the cheek, you can be Jean Seberg. And I was glad time proved I wasn't just another, bullshitter, and I meant it, and it was great that it finally happened. I was just lucky Zoey aged about 6 months in those 10 years. And looked
was like, why don't we do
still
this?
playing college kids,
it?
so I'm like, yeah, so she took the big leap. But you know him when you see him. I mean, obviously casting of this was a huge, crazy challenge. We started months and months and months early, and I worked with the great thing about being in France with Michel and Laurent, I was in really great hands. There was this casting director, Stéphane. He threw out a big net, not just to professional actors. We had all them, but he even reached out to people who maybe hadn't worked that much, because we were going for people who had the resemblance. So we just wanted to meet everybody. That's where Guillaume came in. He reached out to him. But I eventually, you go through hundreds of people, and you're like, no. Oh, that kind of looks like them. And then, but you got to proceed with confidence in casting. You got to think there's going to be people out there. The human gene pool kicks out a lot of resemblance. And then there's enough actors or people you could get. So you just got to be confident that you're going to find them. And so you know it. When they walk in the door, or like Aubry, when he walked in, he had that smile. I was like, God, he's got that Belmondo thing. I think that's him. And so you just know it when you see it, but very blessed. But that's really fun. It's the magical part. And then you get to have that front row seat, even in like costume fittings. I remember there was a day when it was the older guys, Cocteau, Bresson, Melville, and I think Rossellini, they were all sitting there in costume talking to each other. And I was like, God, it's them. They're here. So a lot of that.
Guillaume and Aubry, can you talk about what it was like to audition for the role, and I don't know how bad you wanted it, and what that process was like for you?
I got an email in my mailbox, and I just was an extra before, so this is my first movie. And thank you. And so I couldn't believe it, you know? I thought it was a scam. He was offering me to audition for Richard Linklater, Oscar nominee, playing Jean-Luc Godard, an icon of cinema, making his first movie, Breathless, that changed cinema history forever. That sounded like a scam, you know? So I went to the audition, but prepared to fight if this was a scam. But it turned out it wasn't, because 6 months later, the casting director, Stéphane, he calls me back and he says, Rick is going to be here in Paris in 3 days. Do you still want to meet him? So I said, yeah. He wants to meet you. Here's 25 pages of text, by the way, that you have to learn in 3 days. And find back those glasses. They were good at the first audition. And then I looked into my apartment everywhere, and the glasses were gone. So I had to find new ones. So I called my friends, optician friend, and he opened his store for me, and I got some glasses, but late because he had a plumbery issue in his apartment. So he came soaking wet to his store, and I came late at the audition. And then I got into the elevator, and I got into this room. There was Rick and 15 other people, and Michelle, the producer. I didn't knew she was the producer, but she went to me and said like, "Who the fuck are you? You're late." And I said to myself, first impression is key. So what would Godard do? He wouldn't make excuses. So I said, yeah, of course I'm late. I needed those glasses. And then she went, what glasses? And I explained the story. They started laughing, and this is how it started. And I had 8 hours casting, and then they handed me the script, Michelle again, and I told her, like, are you sure you're allowed to do this? And she said, if there's one person that is allowed to do this, it's me. I'm the producer. So yes, here's the script. Go away now. And then 2 weeks later, they called. Stéphane called and said, they finally choose. They think it's you, so it's gonna be you.
There were other Godards,
Yeah.
guys who maybe had the resemblance, or but Guillaume had the I call it the unearned swagger and confidence of a first-time filmmaker. he kind of carried himself. I'm like, that guy, he's so witty, his thought differently, his humor. I was like, oh, this is him. He's here. So it was great. We had to thin his hair a little bit. Start thinning the hair, doing, but.
Every day they bought me.
On that casting day, each person who was coming in for casting, he would introduce himself, not saying, I'm Guillaume Marbeck. He would say, I'm Guillaume Godard. Now, if that is not confidence, what is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Aubry, can you tell me a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, for me, it started with a Facebook post that I saw like a day. And I remember a whole guy told me when I was 16, like, oh, you look like Belmondo. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. Maybe I'm going to have it. I don't know. And then I did a lot of like casts. It was long. We waited a lot. And then I remember the day I arrived on the room with Michelle, with Rick. It was my first casting of my life. So I was terrified. I was very terrified. I remember like Michelle telling me, okay, look at the floor. We put a blanket. It's a bed. I'm like, whoa, okay, I have to I have to use my imagination. So I tried. I kind of messed it up, my first casting. But then the night I remember Stéphane Battu, the casting director, calling me back, and he told me, okay, don't be scared. Just come relax the next day. Richard likes you. It's going to be okay. Oh. So I came back the next day, and I knew the floor will be my bed this time, so it was better. And then yeah, I came relaxed and I did what I had to do, and then I'm here. So I guess it was cool.
Yeah. Like I told you, I knew when I first saw him, it was just like, okay, just do half okay. I know you're the right guy. Yeah. So.
Hit the gym.
Yeah.
And then it was, yeah, you have to box. You have to. We sent him to the gym. You were a little skinnier. It's like start drinking protein shakes, go work.
Yeah.
We had a few more months, so.
Yeah, that was the first thing. Like the guy told me when he told me, okay, you have the part. Now you have to hit the gym a lot.
Yeah, you're gonna have your shirt off. You got to be Belmondo. You're a boxer, as well as an actor.
Zoey, can you tell me about how you got to know Jean Seberg and maybe how you related to her as an actor or the experience she was going through during this film?
How I got to know Jean. Well, I watched on repeat the 2 movies that she did before Breathless, Bonjour Tristesse and Saint Joan, and I tried to find as much footage of her from that time. There's one particular interview that I felt was really, really helpful in locking into this specific moment of her life. She's giving a tour of her apartment, and it helped a lot with her French dialect and her English dialect. And I kind of memorized it almost like a monologue. I transcribed it and put it in my phone, and I would just listen to that on repeat when I was on walks, and every morning before I would go to work, I would kind of repeat it a couple times, which was really helpful for getting to know the voice part. And yeah, I in terms of relating to her, I just have I have so much empathy and compassion for her situation. She was very young. She was plucked from obscurity from Marshalltown, Iowa. She didn't have a foundation or a support in any way in Hollywood, and was destroyed, really destroyed by the press here, and came to France and did this movie in the hopes that she could begin again, even though she had already just started. And she was so young, and we hear this story time and time again of the way that the world treats young, talented, beautiful, smart women. You're not allowed to be all those things. You can pick one, maybe. And she just happened to have all of it, and people don't like that. And it's deep that that still happens. We don't learn from our mistakes with that. And so in terms of relating and observing what happened to her, I feel for her deeply, and I love her, and it was an honor to step into her life and to pay respect to her world.
I'm going to have to assume the vibe on a Richard Linklater set is nothing like the vibe on this movie. Talk to me about, Richard, how important rehearsals were to getting this film right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I told everybody, what we're showing here, how they're making the film, we're doing the complete opposite. What they just show up on a Paris street and start shooting, and actors don't know their lines. I mean, we're going for that spontaneous feel. I want the film we're making to feel like a Nouvelle Vague film, like it's spontaneous, but we can't, we have to create everything, So, everybody, I think these guys are being humble. They worked really hard, We really put in that time. And, but that's fun, getting to know them and getting them. And I think it was just the attitude. I was telling him, you're not playing icons. We aren't doing anything important. This is just a film by this Cahiers critic that probably won't work. It was just, I was kept consciously kind of lowering the stakes and whatever icon status. I mean, this is 1959. We don't have to think about anything after. Like they would ask, well, they didn't really get along. I said, no, that was later, like Truffaut and Godard. And now we're best friends. We're just all happy to be here. And but I really stressed how much we're going to rehearse and get it right and do that. Because, they shot their whole film in 20 days. We had 30 but we had to create everything. They didn't have an art department. We had an art department. Paris, 64 years later, needed a lot of work.
The actors, can you talk about what you sort of discovered or locked in during the rehearsal project that made you ready to perform when it came time to shoot? Guillaume, maybe I'm going to start with you.
What I discovered was that what I thought a superstar would be like Zoey, because I was just a nobody, and working with somebody who has experience could be really frightening. She just opened her heart and helped us trying to find our place and how to manage, like, what is it going to be every day on a schedule for a movie, So this is what I discovered. I discovered a real friend that helped me. And so thank you, Zoey.
That's so opposite their relation in the movie. So, but yeah, but that was the vibe.
Did making this movie change any of your perspectives about? Did making this movie about making a movie change your perspective at all about making a movie? I know it's a jumble.
Perspective about me. It's a little meta. I guess. Yes.
Well, to me, I used to be on the other side. So I was part of crews. I've been a prop assistant. I've been camera assistant. I've done every job that you can imagine on a set. And so being in the position of the lead actor made me realize how much everybody is counting on you to make like the final performance. It's like you're the tip of the mountain, there. And so there's so much pressure that I couldn't even have imagined. And even like going to take a piss, for example, would cost a lot of money for the production, So the first day, I just realized, like, okay, 1 minute means like, okay, so there's how many millions on this budget? So by day, by hours, by minutes, oh, that's a lot of money. So I understood why people were bringing bottles of waters to the actors, because just grabbing a bottle of water could waste a lot of money. So I understand, like, this thing now, but still, I also understood, and it reminded me that I was this little hand making like silly things on the production that doesn't look on screen, that you can't watch. And so it reminded me that every gesture counts, and so being nice with every person was the thing that I was really cherishing to do during the whole process. But it takes a lot of energy too, so there's something like, it's like you have the movie to do, but also to get along with everybody, and that's a lot of energy to put. Yeah.
We were a pretty low budget film, though. Too. It doesn't sound like it's
Well,
millions flying
I
out the
haven't
window
had
for 2
millions
minutes
to make my movies.
Yeah, I mean, we're big compared to the shorts you were making with your friends, but
I mean, we didn't have
But,
we didn't have a single trailer,
like,
not
you
even
know,
like a
we-
honey wagon. To be
Yeah,
clear.
I love
it
the
was
way
a
they
very
make-
small independent movie.
the way they make films in France is cool. It's very streamlined. There's not a lot of transpo. You just get to the people, just take the metro and show up. The crew. There's not a lot of. It's very mobile. It was cool. Yeah, it was really fun. I had made a film there more than 20 years before. I shot before Sunset there as an outsider English language film. It was tough. Permits, I felt really constricted and kind of in conflict with the locals. A lot of bureaucracy to get permits and stuff. It was really tough. This time, because of Michelle and Laurent are such insiders, it was just frictionless. It was.
But that's so much because
pleasant.
of you, the frictionlessness too.
Yeah.
Of course, also Michelle and Laurent. But I was reflecting on this, the miraculous nature of how you were able to, with intention and great experience, but to make a movie that is meticulous, and we were so obsessed with the details and the historical accuracy and getting it right. We all cared so much, but there wasn't this looming cloud of tension of like, we have to do it all right. You know, there wasn't any of that because of you. It really was a joyful environment, and it so easily could have veered in a different direction. And it was very impressive.
You know, many years ago, I was afraid of what the French would think. Like, they're going to hate this movie. We'll show it everywhere in the world except France. That was what I was thinking. Like, I don't even want to ever show it in France because they won't like it. But then got closer to it, and I realized how obsessed certain crew people, starting with Michel Laurent, but even our first AD, this guy Hubert, was just, he knew everything, and he's a first AD, so he's very specific for solving. He went to the archive. This movie was so well documented, not only the photos that we see in the movie being taken, but we had like camera reports. I could tell you how many takes they did of everything, every lens they used for each shot. We had everything, and we were pouring through archives. It was like a joint research project for every department. Everybody was all in on it. It was so fun. We're solving these problems, but a lot of magic happened that way. We go to Raoul Cotard, left his archive when he passed away a few years back, and we're like, is that Camaflex? So the camera you see in the movie, shooting the movie, is the camera that shot Breathless. Because it's like, does that still work? Yeah, can we use it? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so it was like that, little magic happening constantly. I just felt like the French film gods were like blessing us every day.
It's funny how much information we have about their shooting, but they didn't have any information when they were shooting.
Yeah, no.
They didn't have a script. They didn't have anything.
Yeah,
We're like, we
but
know
what's
how many
left,
takes they
camera
did.
reports, that's official. Yeah, there's a lot of letters, we had a lot to go on. It was wild. Remember there was this very logical question as we were replicating, say, when she's selling New York Herald Tribunes, that famous sequence. There's a moment where she puts something in her mouth and goes to get the paper. And it's like, what the hell is she what? It's not a pencil or a pen. It's not. It became a group project. What the hell?
It drove me crazy.
Yeah, because we have to act this. We need a prop eventually when we're going to shoot this. And Hubert, Mr. Obsessive, he comes in and says, I think I know. Because he was studying. They had just shot at a cafe. He goes, and it's kind of white. I think it's a sugar cube. That she just had it nearby in her hand for nervousness and just put it in her mouth. And was like, yeah, so we went with the sugar cube. But
we're almost out of time, but Michel, I thought you could wrap this up by telling us, as someone who experienced crossing paths with Godard, what you hope audiences sort of discover by watching this movie.
Well, I hope they discover the human being behind the legend, really, because he's such a big name now. I mean, it's like a brand, Godard. So he's not a brand. He's a scared, ambitious, and lost film critic who's afraid that he's the last one of the group who's doing a movie. He's afraid he's going to mess it up, but he just is definite that he doesn't want to make things like other people make things, but he doesn't know where this is going to go. So this mixture of being so clever, so articulated, so seductive too, because there's a seduction to him, and also sometimes so annoying. But there's a charm to him. I find him irresistible, the way he's portrayed by Guillaume, really. And Guillaume adds some humor to the real humor of Godard, I think, because Guillaume is like, see who that guy is? He has kind of a distance that gives you space to see Godard differently. So I really think it makes you understand who the guy was. This was a group of young people eager to prove themselves, eager to do the jobs they wanted to do, their dream jobs, like these guys. They were eager to prove themselves. So it's a story about being young, being audacious, daring, and it really tells you that if you really, really want to do something, if it means a lot to you, if it's a life-changing thing in your life to do this job, just do it. There's not a question of money or relationship or material. You can even do movies with your phone now. So to me, the message is Godard was a young kid, like there are so many young kids, and that's what it means, being young, having ideas, and desperately wanted to achieve something. So if it makes you to go and achieve something, then that's what we wanted to do.
Perpetually inspiring.
Thank you all for joining us. Please help me give them one more round of applause.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Rebecca.